guys, you all know that I was reading chapter 2. Now I'm continuing here from here. Okay, let's get started. But then Mrs. Seeth heard me talking all the way from the stage because she hears everything. Like the time she told me and Zack off for running in the corridor, and we were at least a mile away from her because we'd seen her coming out of her office, and we'd been worried that she'd found out about the garden gnome incident, which I don't really have time to tell you about just now. So anyway, we were about a mile away from her because we'd been running our fastest. And I whispered, "Do you think she knows?" And that's when Mrs. Seeth shouted, "Do you think she knows what, Isabella?" And I couldn't believe it, and to this day I still don't know how she heard me. So anyway, I stopped talking right away because Mrs. Seeth is seriously scary, and I didn't want her to shout at me in the assembly hall in front of all the year 6. So we all listened to Mrs. Seeth do the assembly, and that's when she heard that there had been no earthquake and that the school was definitely not falling down, and also that there were absolutely no poisonous chair eating worms whatsoever on school premises, and so on. As she said the word worm, Maisie squealed because Maisie is terrified of everything, and that includes worms. And she usually just faints if you even say the word worm. Never mind, a poisonous one that eats chairs. Then, when Mrs. Seeth had finished staring at us for the squeal, she told us all that the reason for the danger stay out signs was because the school roof was leaking, and that some parts of the school would be closed until the leaks in the roof had been fixed. Then Mrs. Seeth started to tell us which parts of the school were strictly out of bounds, and we all listened closely. But then she said 4J, and we are 4J. So that meant that our classroom was getting shut down, and we didn't know what was going to happen to us. Zack smiled and said, "I bet we get to go home." And Jody said, "I bet we don't." And then Mrs. Seeth said something that we couldn't believe. She said 4J will be sharing a classroom with 6B. And then everyone in 6B groaned and looked at everyone in 4J because 6B are mostly horrible, and they treat us like we're babies, even though they're supposed to be nice to us because they're the older ones. And that's when Jody said, "This is probably the worst day of my life." And Zack said he thought it was going to be cool, but that's only because all the girls in 6B think he's great. And one time when they came to our class to help us with our maths, Zack kept getting all the answers wrong, and all the girls in 6B kept saying, "Oh, he's so cute." Okay, guys, I will continue it tomorrow. This para from here. Okay, Allah Hafiz.